on site. So this sounds fairly typical with their requirements outside city limits for stormwater utility or facility access.
On the first page of the covenant down there, it talks about a secondary purpose. It's for emergency maintenance to prevent flooding or pollution of other properties. What does this allow them to do in that regard?
Once they access the property,
Yes.
to be able to mitigate or resolve the stormwater runoff issue
And then they charge that back to us, right?
for their response time, for their labor.
Well, if they've had to fix something, they're gonna charge it back to us, right? If we fail to do it and they do it, they charge it back to us.
If the facility is not in compliance, they have acceptable standards for what the facility has to be maintained at
So they're gonna charge it back to us if we fix it.
if we don't maintain it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Other questions for Trevor? Okay, interlocal agreement for conservation futures funding.
Yes.
See, but you're gonna maintain it.
Yes.
Suzanne Batchelder is also here this evening to talk to us about Conservation Futures and RCO.
She's been working with both agencies and funding and has a few more specifics on the opportunity that the city has currently before them, the Parks Department. So as you see in the summary statement, an estimated total cost of the property for $370,000 by Clark County estimate. And then there's a shared cost by Conservation Futures at 50%. So we're roughly $185,000 for an actual amount of $375,000. You'll see above as well an expenditure required, less than $25,000, and that alludes to closing costs, title, and survey costs that the city will incur to purchase the property. Is that correct? Okay. So the remaining balance, the $185,000, staff would recommend utilizing park impact fees. Those were provided via resolution 960 and 999 in 2008 and 2010. Currently, we're working with RCO, Recreation Conservation Office.
The other one in Canada.
On this?
Yeah, that's RCO.
Okay.
We just got
This
that.
is the updated, that wasn't in the packet?
Correct.
Okay. So you'll see that the remaining balances thereafter will be covered by park impact fees in accordance with the resolutions that have been passed.
Do we currently have the sufficient funds in the park impact fees to pay that?
Yes, we do. We have over $500,000.
Oh, you make me so happy. Do we anticipate having to use eminent domain on this project? I think the answer is no on that.
That was an outright purchase.
Thank you.
And our expiration date on impact fees, the ones that are the closest to
The
expiration?
closest one is about $120,000 that expired in 2013.
We've been acquiring some of these pieces of property, specifically, piece by piece up that direction. In the 2011 budget, are you putting any money into that, or where do we get the money, I guess, to do any improvement to that? In other words, cleaning it up, protecting the Camping Creek that runs down through there. Where does that come from? I'm getting a little bit leery. I appreciate the fact we get these other monies in here, but sooner or later, it all adds up to do maintenance on these places and that kind of thing. So can you help us out on that?
Well, all maintenance comes out of our O&M fund. However, we have someone who has donated their piece of equipment and time to mow those two properties each year. So currently it's being maintained by Mr. Reinhardt. He volunteers his time to do that. But development of that property is eligible for park impact fee.
Design and development.
Is that house on there, one we can rent out?
It's actually excluded from the purchase. We cannot purchase that with RCO funds, so it's going to be boundary line adjusted out of the purchase.
Actually, I think if you see a map, I can't say, I was all in favor of this. I know we've been looking at this piece of property for about 3 years now. And there is a boundary line that we share. It's property we already own, a large boundary. So it makes this parcel one large contiguous property. And I think I was a little bit concerned about the maintenance of it when I first started taking a look at this, but I really think the state that it's in right now is sort of pasture land light, and I think it's kind of a natural state for the property itself, and I think even if we don't have the funds to really do anything to develop this for 5 to 10 years, it's actually a jewel. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think it's well worth, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to acquire it right now, knowing that we.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we don't run out of funding to keep them cleaned up. And
Right,
become
yeah, I can understand
a
that.
nuisance piece of property.
Yeah.
Other questions for Trevor or Suzanne, either one?
I just, does this replace this one here?
Yes,
Okay.
the one that RJ just.
Well,
Okay.
they're two separate ones. The one that's in the
Oh, they are.
packet's the Clark Conservative Future one. This one that we just handed around was the RCO portion.
So it's in addition to?
It's addition, so those
Okay.
two pieces together
All right.
helps pay for that. And the RCO, I'm apologize, we can get that one until I believe Friday, so.
Okay.
Sean, do you see any reason these wouldn't be on the consent agenda?
There would be one more agenda bill that would go on with this, which would be actually authorizing the mayor to sign the acquisition of the property as well.
Okay.
Now, the grants that we're getting here come from what source?
Actually comes from the state through the county, do they not? Conservation Futures?
Yes, for Clark County, and then Recreation Conservation Offices through the state.
And do we know if that state funding is, well, I don't know how to phrase it, but dedicated funding, where it came from, certain fee?
I believe it comes, you have to double check, I believe it comes through real estate sales
Yeah.
fees. It is dedicated just for these projects. I know there was one Clark County, when the Clark County did a couple, 3 years ago, where they wanted, goes back farther than that, where they wanted to change the use of the property, and Conservation Futures came back and said, not a problem, just repay us all that money first, so that we can repay what basically obtained the property for the county to begin with. So I think they're fairly dedicated as far as what they can be used for and what the properties can be used for from there on out. Dave?
Is there a possibility that this is raising the cost of housing by taking land for housing out of circulation?
Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
It's zoned for low density residential right now, is that the zoning? Trevor, do you know?
Yeah,